My name is Trevor.
And I'm Dwayne the Aesop Rock Johnson.
Today we're going to be talking about the latest Aesop Rock and Tobacco collab, Malibu Ken. And that's what they're also called, Malibu Ken. Ian Babbitts, aka Aesop Rock, is an underground hip-hop artist from New York. Currently is writing in Portland. I can't think of any better place for him to be. He currently has the largest vocabulary of any rapper out there. I saw a study done, and he won by a long shot. I think the next one after him was Ghostface.
With which project?
No, I mean just over the course
over
the course of like their careers. I think they took like their first couple projects, but I think they had to take like their first like 20,000 words or something.
Yeah.
And over the course of that, Aesop Rock used like 12,000 some unique words.
Yeah.
And Ghostface used like 7,000.
7 words.
7 unique words. So obviously, definitely like one of the most verbose, creative, intelligent rappers on the scene right now. And his latest release was back in 2015 with The Impossible Kid.
2016.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, you're right, because it was on our list. His latest release was back in 2016 with The Impossible Kid, which ranked pretty high for both of our year-end lists. That was a really good project. On the other hand, Thomas Feck, a.k.a. Tobacco, is a Pennsylvanian electronic musician.
I thought he was just a cigarette.
He is. There's a tobacco brand cigarette. They're all tobacco.
That's the point. No, wait, not all cigarettes are tobacco.
All tobacco is cigarettes.
Yes.
No. They make cigars and pipe tobacco. Tobacco's known for his very like synth-heavy stylings, and his last release was also in 2016 with Sweatback's Dynasty. So the two kind of got together and wanted to make a record together at the end of like last year. And they released their first single, Acid King, which was then followed up by another single, Corn Maze. And they finally released Malibu Ken with some of the grossest album art of the year.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And it's right at the beginning of the year.
Especially listening to the track Tuesday, where Aesop Rock is just throwing out these disgusting words like pus and like
mushroom
cyst.
Growing in my car.
Yeah, it's just supposed to be really disgusting. And I think also looking at the production of this, it makes sense because it's very bright, plastic.
Oh, it's very like
saturated.
Plastic Beach-esque. But it's got that like plastic, like obviously Malibu Ken's like the Barbie doll.
Yeah.
So obviously plastic and perfect. Ken is like the perfect human Californian specimen, whatever. But on the album art, he's like melting and has like pimples and his face is gone. It's like gross. I don't like to look at it.
But going into the production and how it lays out, a lot of this actually reminds me of some of previous Aesop projects, especially the ones that were produced by LP. They just seem like a more retro, just synth-heavy version of LP production. And I'm saying it may not have as much depth to it as some LP production, because it does linger. But I think after a couple listens, I actually really came to enjoy the production that was on this thing and actually wanted more. I wanted more interesting production throughout, and I think that's one of the biggest caveats this thing has against it. But for the most part, I think Aesop Rock is coming through with some of his most interesting and intense flows to date. Also, some of his most absurd flows to date. And Tobacco's coming with a very distinct and absurd background for Aesop Rock to be over top.
Allow me to play devil's advocate for a second on that. Aesop Rock is one of my favorite performers. I love listening to him perform and write these incredibly weird lyrics, but I feel like his performance is very same throughout the course of honestly his entire career. Aesop Rock doesn't really change tone of voice incredibly often, and while his flows are always like very creative and can get across like a lot of different emotions, I can only think of 2 instances where I felt like Aesop's emotions have like seriously changed, or like the realm of his like performance has changed. And those are 2 of my favorite Aesop Rock tracks. The first one being Hot Dogs, and the second one being his work in the group The Uncluded's song Bats, all about the death of one of his good friends. And so those 2 tracks like really resonate with me because I feel like it's Aesop Rock doing something different. Malibu Ken, the entire project, I feel like is just the same Aesop Rock that everybody knows and loves, but also I feel like can get kind of tiring. It's kind of weary listening to him over a prolonged period of time because it's just like the same performance over and over, which I guess I can't like knock against the way that his voice sounds, but like it feels like it's incredibly monotone. I always enjoy his lyrics, but I don't always enjoy the actual like physical performance of the lyrics.
So it's like a reverse Playboy Cardi.
Yeah,
So he's doing
it's
front flips.
It's just like power within the lyrics, but not so much the performance. Whereas Playboy Cardi has no power within his lyrics, like probably negative power within his lyrics. I lose brain cells, but his performance is so
Just
so off the wall that it's incredible.
yeah. But over this course of this entire thing, there's just so many moments I find interesting. We already mentioned Tuesday, where he's just using this gross lyricism and just explaining it's just another Tuesday and almost his mundane side to the gross world that we live in.
Well, that's just like his every other Tuesday or whatever, because he's just some gross single dude, like, you know, in a bachelor pad, and there's disgusting stuff happening around him.
And then moments like Acid King, where he talks about this murder. I think I wrote in the show notes this murder that happened.
Yeah, this guy Ricky Casso killed his friend Gary Lawers in Northport, New York, in 1984.
And kind of how I think Aesop Rock also kind of before I think
Murder somebody.
yeah, no, but like how he said like the demons were gonna come and that's why he killed this guy and all this weird stuff. I just found the narrative he told on this one weird track about this one murderer to be really interesting. And apparently I think Aesop Rock actually has some like relation to him. Like he went to the same high school, which I think is cool, and making connections to that on the track as well, I thought was interesting. On the track Churro, where he's talking about this eagle. Okay, first, like it has this weird hierarchy to it. So first, eagles are becoming endangered, so they put them in like the national reserve, or they put them on the endangered species list. Then they set up a webcam for people to watch these eagles, and Aesop Rock ties that to someone who's in like a 9-to-5 office job, thinking about like how much their life sucks, and then looking on these live stream, and for a brief instance they feel free. That goes on to the eagle essentially just grabbing the cat and eating it, and then someone tries to find a brief instance of happiness watching the live stream and then sees their cat getting killed on it.
Yeah.
So this weird chain of connections of how this live stream and how the eagles essentially like makes people feel free. It also makes people feel worse. It could be a both freeing and also condemning experience, which is really weird.
I liked that track as well. As I was mentioning, 1 + 1 is 13, or 1 + 1 = 13, and all about like weird superstitions. Or Suicide Big Gulp as well, talking about how Aesop Rock makes the best like suicide drink, like when you go to a place with a soda fountain and you like mix all your favorite drinks together. Like, I don't know, I used to do that when I was a kid.
That also on 1 + 1 = 13. Just the lyricism on this, I had to go back and like check it a few times because I really enjoyed this verse. My bed got two wrong sides and yawning. Dreamcatcher full of me falling. It's haunting. No casually. Back the bad juju. It's an act of rationality. Brash and the bad cuckoo at last. A little superstition stupefied the horde, treating reasonable norms like warriors to unhorsed. I just find the lyricism and the rhyme scheme throughout the entire verse, especially that part, to just be breathtakingly incredible. I think he's just hitting us with like some of his most solid punches of just words, just throwing them all out there at once to date. I just find his planning and his articulation, his narratives that he's covering across this entire thing to be really incredible. And then the very melancholy, almost sedated Purple Moss, which is a reference to a strand of weed, I'm assuming. And how he's just kind of nonchalantly, sedatively kind of moving through life. And on the hook, he's referencing, I think, viewing the world from some type of train or tram. And essentially, that's how he views the world in this kind of sedated place. I just find it to be a really melancholic outro to go out onto. Maybe not the most fulfilling outro.
No, I felt the outro was definitely very unfulfilling. Just the repeat of the ending line, like over and over and over, and then just kind of fading into nothing. I was like, that wasn't really. That wasn't Malibu Ken of you, Aesop Rock. Yeah, I mean,
Malibu Ken does not do drugs.
He's made of plastic. His mouth doesn't move. I mean, it's just like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I felt like it was just it didn't fit in time with the rest of like what was going on. Aesop Rock's not always like a very introspective person. If he's going to spend his entire album talking about like different, just like weird subjects, and then goes out with like, yeah, I'm just thinking about life, and then it's over. It just feels like very unfulfilling. It felt like it didn't end properly. Going back to 1 + 1 is 13, something I wanted to mention. The production on this track felt like one of the best of the record, as well as the singles Acid King and Corn Maze. I felt like had the best production.
Just really exciting.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
like,
it felt like exciting. After I listened to,
I feel like I'm going on like some type of like an 80s nostalgic quest.
yeah, it was like after I listened to Corn Maze, the very first track, I was like, wow, like this is cool. I really like this production. I can't wait to see like how they work together, because I at first I was a little wary. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work, and then it ended up, I think, making a lot more sense once I listened to that, because I didn't listen to Corn Maze before I went into the album, but I was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. But as the album wore on, I was like, this production is literally just a caveat for Aesop Rock's lyrics, and just for the sake of having an Aesop Rock track, which it seems harmless at first, because obviously we all came for Aesop Rock. We didn't come for Tobacco. Sorry, Tobacco. But we came to listen to some incredible lyricism and a really great performance from Aesop Rock. But also, if you're gonna make an album, and you're gonna make a collaborative album, and you're gonna even like mention the fact that, me and Tobacco worked this entire thing together, and worked through everything that we were gonna do. We did all the production, and then we put it all together under a different name. Then that better be some good production that can stand alone by itself. And Tobacco's production, I'm sorry to say, cannot stand by itself. It feels very same throughout the entire project. Like I was talking about earlier, Tobacco has, as an electronic musician, has some of the biggest potential for creating different sounds that people wouldn't think of. Like I was saying, like a trumpet sounds like a trumpet no matter what you do, and a flute always sounds like a flute. A piano always sounds like an actual piano. But synths can sound like literally anything, and Tobacco chose to keep the same synth patch on the entire time. Like, not once is that synth patch switched out. He uses that, like, voice changer thing a couple of times. That, like,
I think that actually works. Those are some more interesting performances.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see him more full-fledged, though, into, like, actually... It
Yeah.
always seems like the background vocals...
it was very
needs to be,
background.
like-
I couldn't understand, like, what he
Yeah.
was saying. It felt like it didn't hold any weight, but I was like, yes, like, give me a little bit more. Just, like, push yourself a little farther. And then, of course, we just veer right back onto that same exact synth patch. I was like, can we, please just, like, try something different? Because if you're an electronic musician, you can make so much interesting production, and Aesop Rock, I feel like, deserves that kind of interesting production. And here I just felt like we got the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. I think for the most part, I really do enjoy this project, though. I think Aesop Rock is in good form, and the production, while it is lacking in some aspects, I think it actually is a good background for Aesop Rock, because it isn't just Tobacco. It is Aesop Rock and Tobacco. Front on Aesop Rock, who has the first name on the thing. It's not just Tobacco.
No, Malibu Ken is the first, and they're equals in Malibu Ken.
Well, Malibu...
Under Malibu Ken, we are all equals. But not this time. Tobacco is definitely a weaker link here. I think that detracts from the project as a whole. Like I said, like, I love Aesop Rock's lyricism. It's so fun to read, especially, and to listen to him perform it. Sometimes feels like it's lacking, because he doesn't really like change a lot about his inflections or anything. But I felt like the biggest takeaway from the project, or the biggest like detractant from the project, was Tobacco's like very same production.
Yeah. Honestly, what I want more of is just anything for the next project. This thing left me wanting more. And I want more. I want more production switches from Tobacco. I want more fiery performances and more lyricism like this, and more narratives from Aesop Rock. I would like to hear some features of some type. I would like to actually hear Tobacco do some like actual voice work
stuff,
because he is a frontman for a band. So I think it would be
yeah,
interesting.
like he has the ability to sing. He masks himself behind this like Darth Vader voice changing mask, and it doesn't sound.
Which I think it makes sense in the aesthetic, but I feel like they just never lead up into anything actually. So it'd be interesting to see where it would go. I hope this continues because I think there's a lot of potential to it still. I think it's good. I really had a lot of fun with this. I think we're gonna end it there. If you want to listen to more of our reviews, there should be some on the screen. We have a weekly podcast called the Anthony and Todd Show, which we host every week on Apple Music and Spotify. Links down below in the description. Also down in the description are links to our various social media. So you want to check us out on that, go right ahead. But until next time, guys, I've been Vincent.
I'm Trevor.
And see ya, boyos.
Bye, everybody.